All right. I'm sure everybody's back from lunch or at least getting settled. So let's go ahead and let's go on to our next presentation. What to expect when expecting restaurants. It's more than just a bug or a broken door. Janet A. Hurley is our presenter. Janet, if you want to go ahead and turn on your camera, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that cute little video. Maybe we'll have her play it again at the end. That was sent to me from a friend of mine in the city of New Orleans. And since we're talking about inspections of restaurants, and it's more than just a bug, basically, okay. Basically, when you're looking at common pests, we think about our cockroach, we think about mice and rats. But with that video, what you probably don't think about is, well, had I not seen that video, would I have seen the evidence of that cockroach or that rat if I had done an inspection during daylight hours? And that's really what I wanted you guys to put the frame of mind is when we go out and do our inspections, and when we're talking about pest and pest identification, yes, sometimes you may be able to see a cockroach. Sometimes you may be able to see a fly, maybe some ants. But, some of these insects and such actually uh, can also tell us that there's other problems going on. Because when I see a fly and then I see a nasty floor drain, well, a fly in a floor drain or a roach in a floor drain that's harboring listeria or salmonella, and then they go land on a food processing area, then yes, then we start talking about foodborne illnesses and other bigger problems. So today what we're going to discuss is how does FSMA, integrated pest management, and insects all have a role in food safety. So we all know, because this is what y'all do, and this is why I didn't want to become a sanitarian, is because where we eat is also the place where bugs want to hang out. And we all know some of the more familiar foodborne illnesses. I mean, the two big ones that are on this list, Listeria and E. coli, wow, just had two companies shut down and make things horrible for folks because it got into a common food source market, lunch meat, and I'm sorry, y'all, I just cannot think of E. coli. And then we're looking at processed onions. And how did E. coli get to processed onions? I'm sorry, y'all, I've got enough knowledge to know that that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. They were raw onions. I could go with some other things, right? We also talk about zoonotic diseases. So while you may not think about rabies or plague as being part of our food system, the typhus, murine typhus, which is transmitted by fleas that are on rats, is extremely important and can definitely go back to our food handlers. Mosquito-borne illnesses, those too. I mean, we're not just talking about a brick and mortar building anymore when we talk about food safety. I mean, food trucks, that whole food carts, where are they doing things? Are they transporting school lunches from one main kitchen to another? There is so many different ways that so much of this can be transmitted and more because of insect pests. So let's get on the same page. What is IPM? It's called Integrated Pest Management. I just want you to know everybody only hears pest management. They want a silver bullet to solve all our pest problems. And in truth, that's just not something that can happen no matter what. Now, is it a good balance between pest and pesticides? Yes. We can't control every insect out there, but that's really not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is our food safe? Is our home safe? Are our crops safe? And then, oh, let's consider the environment, other non-target organisms, and how does that insecticide, herbicide, fungicide, disinfectant, antimicrobial impact human health? So we're always looking at risk to people, non-target organisms, and the environment. And again, we all know these terms, best management practices, but we all understand that sometimes one BMP doesn't always align with another BMP. And how do you make it all holistic? Well, if you're not familiar with the updated Food Safety Modernization Act, please join us in learning this, because the reason I say this is this was a huge effort for CDC, USDA, FDA, and a lot of folks like y'all saying, look, we can only do so much when we go in and look at a restaurant or look at a school cafeteria or in a grocery store. I can mark evidence of, but we just saw in that video, and that's why I like to show that video, is the chances of seeing some of that evidence when you walk in to do that inspection isn't as obvious. But are there conducive conditions there? Heck yeah. And that's what you really want to be able to cite and to make people make changes. So in IPM, we talk about inspections. Well, it's the same thing. Identify hazard. It's an inspection. And then understand that cause. How did that door sweep get broken? Oh, the door's been there for 25 years and it's used daily. They break, but they're not hard to replace. But if you don't replace it, then yes, you open yourself up for mice, cockroaches, scorpions, you name it. Y'all over in Arizona, you can even get a tarantula or two. So this goes to the IPM part of identification. What is it? I mean, there are specific cockroaches, German cockroaches especially, that do not live outdoors and walk inside. Bed bugs do not live outdoors and walk inside. They come in with someone or something. So understanding what is that cause? Because I always say, what is it? Where is it? Why is it? I mean, again, nature has a way of throwing things in our way. It's us, the human, that needs to learn how to fix it. So then you go into this implementing of preventive controls. Well, IPM is all about prevention. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you can seal up the building envelope, and that's 3/4 of it, making sure that what comes in, even if it comes in with humans or a shipment or something, that someone is looking at that to make sure that they're not getting a couple of extra friends inside a cardboard box. Then monitor the effectiveness. Part of IPM is using designated glue boards as ways to monitor for insect pests. And I will show you some examples. And then the final part, which our monitor of effectiveness also goes into taking action under IPM. Taking action is anywhere from doing something mechanical, physical and mechanical, cultural controls, changing the habitat, to actually, doing some type of cleanup, something like that, to yes, using a chemical control. And then review and adjust is evaluation. And both mean, what did we do right? What did we get wrong? Do we still have a problem, and why? So what does an IPM inspection look for? Food, water, harborage. And this is the hardest part because a lot of folks don't understand the food part and or the harborage. I was answering a question about a spider wasp. Well, the spider wasp is inside the home hunting for spiders. Get rid of the spider, you get rid of the spider wasp. Cockroaches. Well, they want warmth, they need a little bit of water, and they need a little bit of food, but it's their harborage. If the German cockroach doesn't have a place that is warm, that they can raise their young, and they don't need much, the size of a credit card is the only amount of width that they need to get through. So again, you can look at a baseboard or your refrigerator, and all those cracks and crevices, those become the harborages. And food isn't much. Again, a crumb on the floor, another dead spider. Food is food. The hardest part is thinking like a bug, and where would a bug live, not where would a human live. And so this part of this glue board, when we're talking about monitoring and pest control, this is one of the few ways that a pest management professional can actually in, inspect a building and not be there. And the reason I say that is glue boards, if they're put out strategically correctly, they can actually be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but they catch the activity of most of our common insect pests, especially in kitchens and food prep areas, because again, there's three things that are always in a kitchen, a teacher's break room, or something else. Is there's food, there's water, and there's harborage. So understanding what it is, and then action thresholds, what triggers. So there's two sides to this. If there is no pest, no major identifier, yeah, there may be some roly-polies, which are sow bugs, maybe some millipedes, maybe a couple of crickets, something like that. Well, yes, those are insects, but that would all tell me, if I saw them on a glue board, that you need a door sweep. The other thing is the multiple control tactics. The belief that there is something that comes in a can and that you spray it and it will kill all bugs dead is not really a truth. It is a commercial that makes people want to go out and purchase things. The hardest part about IPM, and even for y'all when we're talking about food safety and food management practices, is that teamwork. It takes people to manage other people because we are our own worst enemies. So, like I said, when I was talking about monitoring, I use these glue boards to give you a visual of what you walk into a facility, you see these glue boards, and they were probably in a device, and you're like, oh my God, they've got all these bugs. Y'all, here's the problem with every one of these glue boards. This is an outdoor roach that walks in under a door threshold. This is a cricket. It walks under a door threshold or a crack in the door. Ground beetles, they're attracted to the lights that are lit outside the door and that they're crawling inside. Again, a spider, the millipedes, another little cricket. This spider wasp, okay, well, what's it looking for? Every one of these indicates that, yes, they have a pest problem, but the easiest fix, and again, with FSMA, it's one of the easiest ways that you guys can go to a facility and go, if you will just fix this door sweep or put out this light trap, these things will help with those those random insects, because again, none of this would have been inside except for that door. So when we talk about using those sticky traps, it's an observation technique. Because when pest control companies come in, and I don't care if they work for the facility or if they work for a big company and they're coming in and doing their monthly service, their quarterly service, or whatever, they cannot see everything unless it is a 10 by 10 square box. And then it should be fairly easy. But if there was a lot of clutter, it would still be difficult. So you're trying to collect in these sensitive areas so that you can have a numerical record. How many roaches? Were they up? Were they down? Because again, on the back side of things, on my side of thing in pest control, we want to make sure that again, do we have numbers increasing, decreasing? Are they all adults? Are they nymphs? What are they? Because again, the more you know, the more likelihood of solving the problem. The idea of pest management isn't just spray and praying. It's okay, what are we doing to solve this pest problem? Because again, nobody wants to see anything extra in their meals. So I put this diagram of a kitchen in for everybody to be on the same platform. And the reason I say that is because again, we all go into kitchens, we all see different things, but there are some very unique opportunities for insects to visit these places simply by building construction. And what I mean by this is especially in school buildings, especially in school buildings and nursing homes. Oh, and hospitals. Okay, where you have a main facility kitchen, they tend to put the mechanical rooms that open out into nature right next to where you are trying to have a very sensitive environment where you don't want any intrusion from pests. And the biggest one that drives me bananas and has driven me bananas for over 23 years is we put our mechanical rooms where we run conduit for water, hot, cold, sewage, electrical. Okay, then we have other drain pipes for either a sump pump or something else. We also have HVAC lines. There could be other things going on. And we punch a hole into this concrete wall. And now I've got a whole highway that runs across in a false ceiling. And the room that gets the biggest hit is always food storage. I cannot tell you how many times, I walk into these areas and the reason they're having a pest problem is either they're next door to this or it's the exterior wall and there's a crack in the foundation. So these are the areas, again, when you're walking a facility looking for conducive conditions, it's these exterior walls. It's dumpsters. Where do they have their dumpsters? Where do they have an ice machine? Where do they put things? How much storage? And the reason, again, I put all of that there is these are all places where they become hidden in plain sight. And yet these are where lots of problems can happen. They can have broken vents out here, and now it's a rat, it's a raccoon, it's a bat that's now moved in. Well, this is an open ceiling plenum area. Well, this is the false ceiling area. Well, now they're up and they're over and they're in half of the building. Those are where those are hidden places. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to protect this building envelope. In other words, my running joke is bugs in nature, great. Bugs in the building, game on. And I live in Texas, y'all. We have our fair share of bugs too. And as long as they're out there in nature and they're not bothering me, fine. But again, I don't want roaches inside the building. I don't want ants. I darn sure don't want a rat. So the other things that we don't talk about, especially in food safety, are birds. And the reason I bring up birds and bats is birds, depending on where they're roosting, especially if it's on an overhang, well, they bring mites. And if they're pigeons, well, pigeons, starlings, grackles, a few others. Anyways, their droppings also can transmit diseases. So that can be a secondary problem to something that's not being addressed. And I realize everyone's tight on budgets, but remind the business owner or whomever you're dealing with, you do not want to have your name associated with listeria or E. coli or salmonella. Just throw those words out. Hopefully they would get it. But understanding that vegetation is can be a problem. Looking for random building stuff, or better yet, oh, we cleaned out some stuff and we left the trash there, and then Bob got sick, and now no one's going to pick up that clutter. Y'all, I know that clutter's evil and clutter can harbor things. So again, that is a conducive condition. And now we'll talk about slime. I have been on the hunt for looking for this slime image, and I happened to see this coming out of this drain pipe. But the reason I took it was right after the listeria broke out with Boar's Head. And I was at a national meeting and I looked around the room and I said, I will bet you guys anything. Slimy water, bad floor drains, and a fly of some sort. Yes, we've learned they had multiple different issues. Not everything was rectified, but the biggest go-getter hitter when it comes to listeria is generally there is a nasty floor drain that's got stuff that looks like this in a floor drain, and then there are flies. And flies have sponging mouth parts. So if you've ever used a sponge, just go with me. Think of the sponge, dirty on the floor, dirty onto a counter. Don't you want to eat now? Aren't you glad this is after lunch? Again, openings. So many pieces of property have this. Well, a brick fell out, or we needed to put in new conduit. Well, we fixed this and we fixed this, but now I have an open hole and we're wondering why I've got roaches, a snake, and mosquitoes coming into the building. Because again, this is probably a clean out. So understanding that this is just as much of a problem as dirt on a floor. Keeping pests out. I have heard a whole host of different things from folks. And literally, the city of New Orleans went around showing folks, look, it doesn't take much. It takes a guy or two guys and a couple of gals every now and then with some tools, not just one screwdriver, but a fairly nice toolbox of tools and some random pieces, sheet metal, hardware cloth, anything that can help keep certain pests out. No, this would not keep a scorpion out or a roach out, but it will keep a raccoon out. And if it's keeping the raccoon out, there shouldn't be ticks up underneath the building. So again, all of this stuff, this plastic stuff now, you can use that. This keeps out birds and bats and rats. So again, making sure that there aren't these open exposures so that Mr. or Mrs. Pest can come in and then spread their diseases. Overhangs. They're so fun. Not. Reason I show this is Even though this has got siding up on it, and it can be vinyl, it could be wood, it could be metal, it could be, y'all, if this is not 100% solid, there's a wee bit of a crack. I want y'all to do me a favor. Sitting at your desk, I want you to all look at your hands, and now I want you to look at your index finger. Your index finger is the size of a mouse. It's a quarter of an inch size of a dime. Okay, mouse, snake, roach, and then if you get into the tip of a pen or a size of a credit card, now you're talking ant, spider, most of your creepy crawlies. You go up to 2 fingers, which is a half an inch. Now you're talking generally bats, rats, and if there's a way for them to pry in, especially if it's a raccoon or something and it's soft material, they'll chew and gnaw to get in. Then you look at these overhangs, and every building has some type of overhang. But this is where the bird sits, and this is where the bird lands all of its stuff. And then the kiddos go and get on the bus. Well, where do you think all of those droppings are going? And how are they getting moved about? I mean, it doesn't take much for something like this that people are like, oh, they're but just pigeons and we need to feed them, to where you get a lot of excrement. And now you're talking about a potential health hazard. The other place, again, looking at an exterior of a building, not only, okay, this one's like missing part of their overhang, but also these ventilated slats. These ventilated slats can allow a variety of different pests to get in. And then again, this one's just on the roof of a building, but I've also seen it where there's the roof up here and they're going into the mechanical room. And remember, the mechanical room, especially since this is the grocery store, oh, that's right by the dock, which is where they store the food. And then we take it out and go put the food on the shelf. So clutter and vegetation. I realize big trees may not all be a big thing in Arizona. It all depends on where you're at. I get it. But up against a building, they allow other insect pests to hang out. Maybe it allows, a rattlesnake to have its own little den over here. This one allows squirrels and other things, ants, to run up into the building. Oh, well, we didn't need these milk carts anymore, but now I do. So I'm going to take some of these in, and there's some spiders in here and maybe a beetle or so. Well, now they're in the kitchen. And this is just a hot mess, y'all. It's just cardboard, and cardboard is evil no matter what. But now, I mean, you don't know what you're dealing with. And again, this becomes a community problem. And sometimes the person that owns the dumpsters has no control on what the people do over the weekend. So now we'll go to my favorite thing, the nasty floor drain. It's not that nasty, but there's some things going on here that, again, understanding what it is. Floors and drainage. Can everything go down the floor drain? Is that condensate actually getting there? Is there a hole here, again, credit card size or larger, that something can move from one place to another? Because, by the way, I'm storing bananas up over here on this shelf. So is everything cramped? Are there steel barriers between equipment? And the reason I say that is sometimes you'll get that steel wall and it looks like it's solid, but it's not. And I have seen some pretty bad cockroach problems get started in there because they can go in, nobody really notices it. They don't realize that that dark stuff is actually, it's not rust, it's cockroach frass, which is their poop. Again, do you have vinyl or do you have small tiles like this and they're cracked? is it really close quarters. I have been in some places where you're lucky you can turn around. And then what about table and chair designs? Tubular. There are some places where children like to be very bad and throw their sandwiches inside the tubes. Floors and drains. Imagine this. All of this gunk was inside that floor drain. Do you think the floor drain was working? Probably not. Oh, we keep our doors closed. No, you don't. No, you don't. That little doorstop right there. How do you think flies and mosquitoes get in? Probably a spider. I've seen mice and rats go over it as well. I mean, this is one of those things that my school IPM training says if you can prevent the 6 and the 8-leggeds from coming in, the 4 and the 2 will definitely stay out. This is one way to keep 4 and 2-leggeds out. And I put this image in so that everybody can see this is what a brand new floor drain looks like. This is what it looks like when they're clean. I realize not all of us will ever see this again, except for in brand new structures. But the achievement is you want to see more pretty clean stainless steel than black and gunky. Because the more that it's black and gunky, the more chances there are for some foodborne illness bacteria to grow. Because you don't need much, right? Moisture, good medium. And what? Kitchens are always humid. Ah, here's one for y'all. This is a dishwashing machine. Excuse me, not a dishwashing machine, ice making machine. The ice making machine. Let me sit that in for a second. One, I've got water going in. We can obviously see that there's a problem with the condensate because there's water just everywhere. Everywhere. You pull this glue board back, and the reason I zoom in on this so you guys can see a better image is this is the cockroach that I don't want you to see in a kitchen or in a building. That is the German cockroach. On their head, they have 2 black stripes right on the back of their head. That's a protonoum. We call them racing stripes, but it's what's to distinguish. German cockroaches do not fly. There is another invasive roach that looks just like the German. It's called an Asian roach. It does fly. It tends to like to live indoors, but y'all, it's a cockroach. It flies indoors, finds food, water, harborage. It's indoors. Nature is just nature. The other thing that is of interest is these other little bugs tells me that they've got a forward fly problem, which means the drain that this water is supposed to be going into is clogged, probably clogged with organic matter. That organic matter is allowing the moth flies to actually breed as well. And the control of the solution was a hockey puck, which is cockroach bait, which was great back 20 years ago. But nowadays we make these insecticide gel baits for these roaches that could be placed back where they're probably living, which is up underneath here. They take that back to the nest and they feed it to their children. Then they all die. So if you're not familiar with a floor drain, because I don't expect everybody to know this, I know this because of my wastewater experience. But generally, when you have occupancy in a building, be it your home, be it a business institution, a restaurant, if humans are occupying it day in, day out, and they're doing what they're doing, water stays in these lines. However, if you're someone like me who travels a lot for work, well, there's some drains in my house that dry out. If you're a school district, especially schools that close during the summer, and it's hot, like Texas and Arizona, well, it doesn't take long, about 2 weeks max, and every floor drain in the building is dried out. And then the little roaches, the Orientals, the Turkestans, the Americans, the Smoky Browns, well, they find their way from the sewer pipe and then they come up. It's when they come up. If they come up and there's extra food source, they're great. But a lot of times when they come up for my schools, especially in the summertime, it's been cleaned, it's been disinfected, but food service come back and they're all on their backs. I tell everybody if they're on their backs and there's no twitching, they're dead. Be thankful. If they're twitching, then do something. The other part of the drain, and I've been mentioning about foodborne illnesses, and reason I put this in is this little brownish stuff that you can see on this slide represents a drawing of the organic matter that builds up every time somebody puts something down the floor drain. And the reason I show you this is because this is where the roaches, this is where the drain flies, this is where the forward flies, this is where even the fruit fly or the house fly can go down, get the bacteria, fly back out, walk back out, and then walk across a food prep area. And that is how foodborne illnesses are transmitted. So things that can be done. Well, yeah, here's a sink. Finding one of these strainers to keep things from coming back out of the sink isn't always easy. And again, it's a simple fix. One of the things you can ask when you're doing an inspection, where's the drain stopper? The other thing is, again, on those floor drains, because this actually came from a plumber who said to his IPM guy, look, they make these backflow things that allows that the sewer gases don't emit back up into the bathroom when the drains dry out. Well, the interesting thing is it's closed here. There's a flap here. What it really means is if there is no water going down the drain, then it's closed to anything coming back up out of the drain. Kind of like a door sweep. These really are not that expensive. It just takes somebody who can get down on their hands and knees, pry this open, take out all that gunk that I showed you earlier in that nasty floor drain, put this in, and then teach the crew when they're cleaning the floor drains that they can use some of the enzymes to actually clean this so we don't have a buildup of bacteria. The other area that y'all may or may not want to inspect is if you're doing one of those code walkthroughs, environmental codes. These floor scrubbing machines, great invention, but by God, they can spread some good cockroaches because, again, nobody cleans the bottom. I put this image in because I wanted to remember to show you all. Yes, we're monitoring here, but if they're monitoring here and you see another disc like this and it's got cobwebs and stuff, no, they are not monitoring. They are not doing IPM. We're doing lazy pest control. You have my permission to ding them again. Now, the side view of that lovely floor scrubber, when I was working with this school district, the roaches were literally living up here on the motor. And they'd take it out of the kitchen and then they would motor it across the entire campus, spreading cockroaches like fairy dust. And again, nobody was paying attention to one piece of equipment. Two, because I know that you guys do these types of inspections, feel free to zing anybody who leaves nasty mop water with the mops inside of it. Because again, nothing says foodborne illness as nasty water and putting it back on the floor. I mean, again, a fly, a roach, whatever. I have to sit down and do yoga. Okay. This is not acceptable, but you will be surprised how many people forget the basics. And I know we talk about training, but I swear, we need more, I guess, signs with basic information. Again, I know that most of your inspections involve food processing areas, but do know this. Remember that mechanical room. If this isn't done right, this floor drain, and pests can come up in and out of here, then again, it's not hard to follow a conduit line and I'm in or I'm up over a wall and I'm now in a building because this isn't monitoring as well. This is like child's play. The most important thing here would be to seal this up. If the drain is a drain to nowhere, then concrete it up. Again, where do I put these? This one was there, but you can see that there's a lot of activity. However, it makes me wonder, where was it before? Those are the types of things, when you're looking at something, look for dates, look for names, look for anything, because if they're a really good pest control company, initials, dates, all that stuff will be on there, and they're doing it for monitoring. If it's got a 2-year-old date, feel free to pick it up, toss it. And again, go to wherever you're inspecting and go, who's your pest control company and what are they doing? I put this image in mostly because this was the invention creation of, again, New Orleans and A&M going, all right, we're in a school situation. This school is being monitored not only by us because we've got a grant, by about 4 or 5 other agencies for various different things, including an Oprah TV show. But what we were trying to do is ascertain, did they have mice? Did they have rats? Did they have roaches? Did they have spiders? What did they have? And the best way to do this is we put those sticky cards inside here. And once things were in, they stay in because there's no way for them to come back out, especially on a glue board. Even if we got a mouse in here, the mouse can't leave. So it was an ability to actually monitor. When I do training with pest control and I talk about doing monitoring around food establishments, this is the kind of device. They make some other ones, but I tell them it's got a top, it's got a bottom, and it's got sides. But the sides have got little cutouts so that roaches and spiders and stuff can go in. And again, once they're in, I can make an identification. And now I know what kind of bait I need to use. Because this was the old way. And yes, again, looking at this tells me a story. The other one that tells me a story is that Company A chose to do their own thing and Company B did their own thing, but one couldn't take away the other. My running joke is Company A or B could take away the other one. So if this was the first guy, okay, second guy didn't need to really do that. Second guy could have put their device there and then move that device or vice versa. Because 2 insect light traps isn't doing a whole lot of good. One here, maybe one on the other side of the wall, because we all know food eating places, they're generally several thousand square feet. You want to make sure they're covered. You want to make sure that if flies come in, they go there to this board and not to your plate. Again, these are not approved for over food prep areas. They should be in like dishwashing areas or hallway areas or away from the buffet line, maybe by the hostess stand. And yes, if they have a bar, somebody close there too. And this slide says it all. All bugs need love. They need food, water, harborage. What can they tell us? Leaking buildings, water leaks, high humidity, mold and mildew, if there's dead animals, bee infestations. I mean, nothing says happiness. Sewage leaks. So a leaking building envelope, if the roof is leaking, if the doors are leaking, if anything around here has any gaping holes, and this is where the credit card test comes in. You shove a credit card up underneath here, through over here, even on this brick veneer, any bug can move in. There are a lot of beetles out there that, again, when you see them, you know that there's a reason what we call that leaky building envelope. Centipedes, millipedes, pill bugs, all of them. You look at these and you're probably going, yeah, we've seen some of those. Outdoors in nature, great. They come inside. There is a moisture issue. I realize that you're in an arid area, but again, if they've got pets, they've got animals, they've got plants, they're going to go seeking water. That small body means they lose a lot of water. So again, depending on the insect species, they will either conserve it, find it, or love it. So a lot of our pantry pests don't need a whole lot of water. A lot of our ground beetles don't need a whole lot of water. Spiders for sure don't need a whole lot of water. Cockroaches, termites, and especially carpenter ants and fire ants, they do need a lot of water. Flies, springtails, and sosids. Okay, that's a sosid. That's another one. Springtails are the ones that look really scary. They look like little aliens. But every one of them needs water in their daily diet. So that means there's either a drain leak, a water pipe leak. There is something going on where there is moisture building up. Could be they have a sprinkler system and the head hits the side of the building daily and it gives all the water to the side of the building. Flies. And the reason I bring up flies is because, again, big contaminator of foodborne illnesses, but finding their larvae may not be as obvious to you again when you're out there doing your inspections, because this is going to be hidden in some organic matter. And yeah, sometimes you'll see the wigglers wiggling around, but generally sometimes you'll see the case, and even then you don't always see the case. You just get to see this. But if you see these in large numbers, not one or two, I mean like 20 to 50, then somewhere, and they're not within 50 feet, that there is some larvae, trash dumpster, someplace where there's garbage. Again, could be a false ceiling, something could have died up there. There's a whole host of things. But again, fruit flies breed in wet areas, syrup, so soda machines, yes, all the breweries, all that type of stuff, the winemakers, they're all susceptible to this. Decaying fruit and vegetables. So garbage areas, leaks, they're all our friends. Animal infestations. Most people don't, they do and they don't pay attention. Sometimes they pay attention because they want to feed them, and then they don't realize they have a secondary pest. But at the same time, it could be that they got into an area and nobody realized it. Again, mechanical room. Or if it's a pier and beam type building, they're living underneath it, and then they have a secondary problem. It dies. The blowflies or flesh flies, this larvae is a little bit bigger than most, but generally they've either got red or green eyes, and they're fairly good sized flies. I mean, you think they're going to take off with you versus a fruit fly. The black soldier flies, again, a lot of decomposing material Could be in, they brought in a batch of organic compost. It all depends, especially if you have got a place that is doing organic recycling. FYI, some of these flies and these roaches are part of that organic food breakdown. So as long as they're not doing the organic composting where they're making food, that's probably a good thing. But that's not one thing you want to put, their organic composting right by the sous chef. So things that you can ask yourself or ask your clients: why is there a pest present? Where is that food? Where is that water? Where is that harborage? How did it get there? They just do not miraculously appear. Is it a pest problem or merely an indicator of a more basic problem? Like I said, those drain flies, they're little bitty moths, but they're the size of a pencil eraser. That means there's a cracked sewer pipe somewhere. Consider the full life cycle of that pest. I mean, in some cases, larvae versus first instar, second instar, adult. Like I said, you see a couple of adults, you catch them on a fly strip, and that's all you see. You're great because, again, the door was open. We took in a shipment. I put this up. Nothing came. A week went by. I can throw away the fly strip because there's nothing else. Again, most 85% of what we do in structural pest control requires some type of environmental modification and human behavioral changes. After that, then yes, you can use chemicals. But again, getting out something that comes in a can and you spray the baseboards, not really. There's not that much that we need to do with that anymore. People still believe that, but that is not sound pest management practices. And I will say that not only are insects our friends, but so are rats. I just got to throw that out there. Now, one of the things that I agreed to do was I wrote this grant with the city of New Orleans to create a strong, comprehensive, multi-sectoral Gulf South regional network that leverages existing infrastructure to train professionals and students in vector-borne diseases. Yes. We have this group, and what we are trying to do is work with folks like y'all to help educate others about a variety of vectors, not just mosquitoes and not just flies. I mean, ticks, rats, roaches, you name it. If it's something and if you want more information, you want to get on our mailing list, feel free to scan the QR code and be happy to have you on our list. And I thank you all for your time today. I hope this was enjoyable. And with that, I will stop sharing so that you guys can put up your cool, whatever that thing is that you use, Slido, right?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for your presentation. You absolutely, I love your point about like getting through to people that it's not just about like throwing chemicals about something. You need to change the conditions in your facility that let roaches and rats live there. You have to get rid of those harborage conditions. I've had so many places that just feel like they can throw money at a problem or throw chemicals at a problem. It's like maybe you should clean your back room. Maybe you should eliminate
Yeah.
this. All right, so some audience questions. What is the best cleaner to use in floor drains to prevent/remove listeria biofilms?
They make actually the wildest thing is they have come up with so many more. Drain gel is one. BioGuard, BioDrain is another. Generally, if you use search terms in enzymes in drain cleaner, because I never know who buys from whom. And it's called a springtail, and rather than trying to kill you all, let me see if I can't get you. Oh, this one's even greater. It's about springtails in a terrarium, but they do like terrariums. But this will probably creep your dad out because I know a gazillion entomologists that do not like springtails because they're them and silverfish because they're like creepy look. They're just they look like the dinosaurs that they used to live with.
Very, very strange.
There's
Well,
some fruit fly baits that are out there now as well. I mean, there are Taro actually makes one, and the cool and I don't have it here with me. It looks like a little succulent plant. There's one that looks like an apple, and there's another one that looks like a succulent plant, but you put the bait in the bottom of it and the flies go into it. It's wild.
all
Do
right. What
and
is your recommendation for food establishments dealing with flies near cattle dairy farms?
lots of insect like fly traps. And then if you can, they make some fly bait stations. I mean, you would hope that the dairy producers would do this, but I get that. But they do make them that you can put them on the pest control company can put them on the exterior of the building, and literally the flies will go to it, eat the bait, and take it back and feed their people.
Interesting. Are drain flies, fruit flies, and fungus gnats managed with similar bait?
Not all the time. Fruit flies have their own special bait, but drain flies and fungus gnats do use the same thing because they're of the similar family.
All right. I think that is about it for the time that we have. Really quick, we did have somebody in the chat ask for your contact information. Would you mind putting that in the Zoom chat, Janet?
I can do that. Hang on if I can figure out how to. You gotta love computers. My main one went down, y'all. It went down, and I'm on the backup one, and I hate it.
Always happens at the worst time, right?
Well, and especially my IT guy goes, how weird. And I'm like, yeah, it always happens to me. Let's see. Come on. Come on.
All right. While you are putting your contact information in there, thank you so much for your presentation. Like I said, absolutely fantastic. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day to present to everybody here. And we'll let you go.
Okay, well, there you go. There it is. It's in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much.